All right, so continuing with our study of statistics, going back, we talked about there's two groups you can survey. You can survey an entire population, and anytime you survey an entire population, that's going to be an unbiased group, and your results will be valid. The second thing is you can take a sample of that population, but you have to make sure that the way you choose your sample makes it unbiased and valid. You can do that by choosing a simple random sample or a systematic random sample. And systematic means you put a system in place, like you ask every fourth person, or you ask every other table in the lunchroom. You have a system in place. There's two ways that makes it biased or not valid that we're going to look at. One is taking a convenient sample, and the other is a voluntary response sample. Okay, and so that's what we're going to look at today with this learning task. Are the surveys going to be valid? Are they going to be unbiased? That's good. Or is there something that makes them biased or not valid? Because that would not be a survey that you could trust the results from. So let's look at this learning task. So part one, a survey is a method of collecting information. These pieces of information, numbers, and facts are called data. So in the space below, compile the data collected by your classmates. All right, so we're just going to randomly or quickly go through this data and answer. If you're not sure if you have blonde hair or brown hair, it's really not that serious. Just pick a category so that we can go on. All right, so if you think you have brown hair, raise your hand. We're just going to count really quick. We're going to leave me out of this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10. Say we have brown. If you think you have blonde hair, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. All right. If you have red hair, do we have any? Okay. And anybody have black hair? 1, 2, 3. What? It's not normal? Okay. All right. So, shh. All right. The second one, do you carry a cell phone? Do you have a cell phone? Raise your hand if you have a cell phone. All right. And 3 now. So do our numbers match? 10, 16, 17, and there's 16. All right, I think that what happened was one person raised their hand for brown and black. I thought I saw that. Okay, let's change that. All right. About how many text messages do you send in a day? So here's the categories. If you think you send somewhere between 0 and 20, you're going to raise your hand. Then the next is going to be, do you send text messages somewhere between 21 and 40? Or do you send more than 40? So if you have a phone and you send text messages and you think you send between 0 and 20, raise your hand. Seven, okay. 21 and 40. Anybody between 21 and 40? Okay, more than 40. 6, okay. I hope you have unlimited on your phones. All right. About how much time do you spend on homework? These are your categories, okay? You spend between 0 and 15 minutes on homework, 16 to 30, 31 to 45, 46 to 60, or more than an hour. So this would kind of be an average every day. How many people say they spend between 0 and 15 minutes on homework? Wow, I need to up my game. 1, 2, 3. Shh. I'm not just talking about math. I'm talking about homework in general. How much time, homework in general. All right, between 0 and 15 again. 3. 16 and 30. 5. 31 to 45. 5. And more, 5. 46 to 60. And more than an hour. I thought you already raised your hand, Cassidy. You had to pick one. So we'll just say 1. Okay. All right. What month were you born? So if you were born in January, February, or March, raise your hand. January, February, or March. Oh, no. Okay. April, May, or June? April, May, or June? 5. July, August, or September? October, November, or December? Okay. All right. All right, so now using these survey results up here, we're going to discuss the following vocabulary. What is the population of our survey? What's the population of our survey? So, what do you think? 16. So, I think that that's more called the sample size. So, the sample size was, it should be 15. There's 17 people in class and 2 are absent. So the sample size is 15. But what's the population? No, the population. What are you all? What are you all considered? 7th grade students at Ringgold Middle School. 7th grade RMS students. So you have to look at what kind of population you have to be able to apply it to other things. Like if I took your cell phone data and tried to apply it to 60-year-old people, do you think that those results, or I could use that to make a prediction about how many text messages 60-year-old people send? No. So that's why you have to be interested in what the population of your survey is. This probably could make a prediction about other 7th grade students at our school, maybe other 7th grade students in the county. It probably would not apply to people your age in a country like Rwanda. Right? Do we think that they would send the same amount of text messages that you would? No. So you have to look at what your population is and how you could use that to predict for other things. That's why that's important. Did we just perform a census or a survey? A survey, right? If it was a census, it would need to be all the 7th grade students at Ringgold Middle School. That would be a census when you talk to every single person in the population. So we took a survey. How would you record your result from question 1 as a piece of data? So if we wanted to report things from question 1, what would be the best kind of graph or way to report that? So, but what would a graph look like? What kind of graph? As we were looking at IXL, you were seeing things like line plot, you were seeing things like maybe a bar graph, a tally chart. What do you think would be a good way to report, how would you record that data if you were walking around taking a survey? I probably would do a tally chart, right? Like a mark for every person. So a tally chart, I think, would probably work. How would you describe your results from question 2 as a parameter of the population? So, question 2 as a parameter. Could you make a statement about most students in the population according to number 2? What would you say if you were to try and make a generalization about most 7th grade students? So think about that for just a minute. Statement about most 7th grade students? What would you say? Because it's 13 say they do and 3 say they don't. Most 7th grade students have a cell phone? I think so. You could say most 7th grade students. Do you think we need to be specific about at RMS? Yeah, I don't think it could apply to everywhere in the world. Do you? At RMS have a cell phone. Okay. Parameter means to create a statement about most. I think that you need to write on your paper what parameter means. That means that you're going to create a statement about most people in that population. All right, so let's look at the next part of this. It says, for each of the problems below, answer the question in regard to population, samples, and surveys. After the 2000 census, the United States Census Bureau reported that 7.4% of Georgia residents were between the ages of 10 and 14. So we're thinking about that. Do you remember what a census is? Where they ask a question of each family in the country about every person in the country. So a census is a survey of everyone in the population. All right? So 10 was a parameter or a statistic reported. So a parameter is they created a statement about most. A statistic is we used actual facts. So did we create a most statement when we said that 7.4% of Georgia residents were between the ages of 10 and 14? No. We used a statistic because it was reported as a specific percent. All right, in this particular survey, what's the population for this survey if we're talking about Georgia residents? What was the population? What does a Georgia resident mean?
Everybody that lives in Georgia.
Yeah, everyone that lives in Georgia. The population is every single person in Georgia. All right, so now we're going to use this example of a survey and we're going to answer some questions about it. The manager of Mill Creek Mall wants to know the mean age of the people who shop at the mall and the stores in which they typically shop. He hires Barker Market Research Company to collect the data. Dennis works for Barker Market Research Company and has been put in charge of collecting data for Mill Creek Mall. Dennis decides to interview 100 people one Saturday because it is the mall's busiest shopping day. So, is this going to be a sample or a survey if he goes one day and talks to 100 people? It's going to be a sample. It's not a census, right? So it's going to be a sample. What is the population for this survey? What do you think? Yeah, shoppers at that mall. Everyone that comes to Mill Creek Mall. All right, now this next one I want you to think about. Is the sample size for this survey appropriate? Do you think that he's going to get enough data by going to the mall one Saturday and talking to 100 people? Do you think he's going to get a good age range of people and he's going to get a good amount of stores? If you just go, I don't think so. No, the sample size is too small for the population. Okay. I also think it's probably a convenient sample. He probably needed to go more times through the week, probably needed to go in the evening. He probably needed to go during the day, during the week. So I think